like Unrivaled could be seeing its final days as Paige, Beckers, and Gang could not save the viewership from tanking. What does this mean for the WNBA when they make their return back to TV? We finna talk about it. I told you guys a couple months ago that the views was going down on the channel. Like, the WNBA content wasn't looking too good. I was one of the first people to say that about the whole genre itself. Told y'all we was going to be making big time changes on the channel. Now, I say that to say this. Now, there has been news to come out about Unrivaled viewership being down nearly 70%.
This was supposed to be the moment when everything finally clicked. The comeback. The proof that the vision worked. Instead, viewers clicked away. Within just 1 week, over 60% were gone. And almost immediately, the excuses started piling up. Algorithms, bad timing, unrealistic expectations. Anything except the real reason. Because fans didn't leave randomly. They didn't leave out of impatience or trend fatigue. They left at the exact moment they realized the one thing they showed up for wasn't there. That realization spread fast. And once it did, the hype stopped working. The optimism sounded hollow. Promises about what's coming next stopped mattering. At that point, it wasn't about quality dips or minor flaws anymore. The core promise had been broken. And when that happens, audiences don't debate. They don't wait. They leave. What followed wasn't bad luck or sabotage. It was the inevitable collapse of something that forgot why people cared in the first place.
Are in, and it's been kind of grim, and by kind of grim I mean really grim. If you are Unrivaled, this is, if these are your ratings every single week on True TV, it's not the biggest disaster in the world, because by the looks of things, these True TV ratings were similar enough to what they were a year ago. Similar enough to what they were a year ago.
Because you're right, a 60% drop isn't noise. It's not the market finding equilibrium. It's not people saying, maybe later. It's people making a snap judgment that whatever this thing is, it does not deserve a protected slot in their attention. And attention right now is the only real currency. What makes it sting is that this league wasn't supposed to be fighting uphill. It wasn't trying to dislodge something beloved and dominant by brute force. It was pitched as the antidote, the smart fix, the version built by people who understood why fans were tired, why the old product felt bloated, overlong, overproduced, overcommercialized. This was meant to feel lighter, sharper, more human. So, when the audience doesn't just drift away but drops through a trapdoor after 1 week, that tells you something essential failed to land. Because week 1 isn't about loyalty. It's about curiosity. Viewers show up with goodwill. They're willing to forgive rough edges, awkward pacing, even mistakes. What they won't forgive is emptiness. The feeling that, once you strip away the branding and the rhetoric, there's no emotional gravity pulling you back. And that's the quiet killer here, meaning people don't come back for formats. They don't come back for innovative rules. They come back because something is at stake. Because they care who wins, who loses, who rises, who embarrasses themselves. If a league doesn't establish that gravity immediately, it becomes optional. And optional things die fast. There's also a harsher reality most new leagues don't want to face. Incumbents don't win because they're better. They win because they're familiar. Habit is undefeated. If you're asking fans to rewire their habits, you don't get to be merely good. You have to be unmistakably necessary. And modern audiences are ruthless. They don't announce their exit. They don't hate watch. They don't complain loudly. They just vanish. One algorithmic shrug, and you're gone. Now there is a narrow path back. But it's not patience. It's not give it time. It's a brutal reassessment. Pick a lane. Embrace a niche. Build stars instead of systems. Create narratives louder than the production. Admit that the original promise didn't work and replace it with something bolder, simpler, and emotionally stickier. Most leagues won't do that. Pride gets in the way. Investors want stability. Executives mistake silence for tolerance. But silence, in this case, is the
Clark shoot for Gamebridge Sports, man. This is going crazy. Now, we have to get into this, man, because this is honestly a little disheartening. Like, we're a week away from Unrivaled. Nobody seems to care. Honestly, it seemed like nobody gives a rat's ass about Unrivaled this season. There's no anticipation. Absolutely nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about the games. Nobody's talking. The injuries mean that much to Unrivaled.
Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Fans didn't reject Unrivaled because they hate women's basketball. That excuse is lazy, and it's wrong. They rejected it because they showed up. They watched. They waited for something to grab them, and it never came. What was missing wasn't talent. It wasn't effort. It wasn't representation. It was stakes. Nothing felt urgent. Nothing felt earned. Nothing felt like it mattered if you missed it, or if you didn't come back tomorrow. And fans don't announce that kind of disappointment. They don't argue. They don't boycott. They just reach for the remote. Because attention is ruthless. And when a product doesn't give people a reason to care, the remote control becomes a weapon of mass destruction.
Last year, which I suffered through because I just watched it because a lot of people don't know how to watch Unrivaled. So I went on lives. I even aired it. And I don't know how I did it, man, because it was just boring and too many clanks and air balls. Well, the clank and air balls are back again. I think it's exactly like last year, just new faces. And I just got done.
Got it. One voice, steady, no pivots. On paper, this was supposed to be validation. Prime time on TNT isn't a courtesy slot. It's a test. It's the league being placed in front of a broad, neutral audience and asked a very simple question. Do you matter enough for people to stop what they're doing and watch? Just over 100,000 viewers is the answer, and it's an answer that doesn't leave much room for interpretation. The comparison to last year is what strips away every excuse. When an opener drops from roughly 280,000 to barely a third of that, you're no longer talking about noise or bad luck. That's not competition, cord cutting, or a tough news cycle. Everything else on the network didn't collapse by 60%. This product did. And that kind of decline doesn't happen unless interest is actively leaking out of the system. The word niche gets thrown around to soften numbers like this, but it doesn't apply. Niche sports can and do outperform 100,000 viewers when they offer clarity, recognizable figures, obvious stakes, and a sense that something important is happening now. This wasn't niche. It was invisible. The audience didn't decide it wasn't for them. Most of them never encountered a reason to care in the first place. Primetime television doesn't build relevance anymore, it audits it. Years ago, a TNT slot could manufacture legitimacy by sheer exposure. Today, it just reveals whether legitimacy already exists. If viewers were already on the channel and still didn't stay, that means the problem isn't discovery. It's pull. The broadcast didn't create gravity. This is where internal and external reality diverge. Inside the league, there's usually a sense of progress, partnerships, social clips, long-term narratives, belief in organic growth. Outside, especially from a network's point of view, none of that matters. The only question is whether the audience showed up when given the clearest possible invitation. They didn't. The most troubling part is that this was the best-case scenario. Game 1 is when curiosity is highest, fatigue is lowest, and optimism is still intact. Later games don't grow audiences. They keep the ones you already captured. If barely anyone arrived at the door, there's nothing to retain.